Hello, guys. Welcome to our lesson number 2. First of all, thank you everyone who signed up and signed the contracts and paid the registration fee. You're one step closer to becoming a QA engineer. So because some of you are still in the process of signing the contracts and paying registration fee, we decided to have the lesson 2 also without a password. So it's going to be free for everyone, but starting lesson number 3, which is going to be tomorrow, for those who signed the contract and paid the registration fee, you'll get your personal password in your email. For those who are still waiting for the contracts, please check your spam folder. Please check all your promotions folder and other folders. You should be getting a contract by now, and please go ahead and sign the contract and pay the registration fee. This way you will get the password with which you can access the lesson number 3. So today we have a few topics to cover, and I want you to present one of our teachers, Lana.
And hello, everyone.
Hello, Lana. We can see you and hear you well. So the class is all yours.
Cool. All right. So let me take over. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. I'm happy to see so many people here again. So let's begin. Today we're going to cover one of the very popular tools. So let me just jump right into it and start sharing my screen. Okay. So today, we are going to talk about Chrome developer tools. What it is, how to use it, I'll show you a couple of examples. And my main idea is to just demo you some of the test cases, some of the use cases actually to be more clear, and basically to show you that it is not hard at all to use one of these testing tools. We're not gonna go too deep into it. We're not gonna learn the whole thing right away today. What we're gonna do today is just play a little bit with that, and I will show you some of the most basic things you can do pretty easily simply by using Chrome developer tools. During our course, we will also look at some other use cases. So something that is more complex will be definitely covered during the rest of the course. But I understand today is just the second lesson. So I don't want to overload you with information. And let's just do a very quick overview of Chrome developer tools and try to understand what it is. So first of all, Chrome Developer Tools is actually the tool that is available for us. It is absolutely free, and all you need to have in order to use this tool is to simply have a Google Chrome browser installed. So you can see over here down on the very bottom of my screen, I have Google Chrome browser installed, and the tool that I will be using today is simply available as just a part of Google Chrome browser. Again, absolutely free, no need to pay for anything. A few words about the other browsers. In other browsers such as Firefox or Safari, you can find similar tools, but they are not as good and they are not as famous as Chrome Developer Tool. That's why we are kind of concentrate on Chrome Developer Tool. That tool is the best, it's the biggest. So if you don't have a Google Chrome browser installed, and would like to use this tool, you will need to install the Google Chrome browser first, and then you can use the tool itself. Now, a few words about what problems we can actually solve by simply using tools like this. First of all, mobile device testing and mobile device simulation. So imagine the case when, let's say, you try to test something, you try to test a certain website, and you are curious how this particular website looks on, let's say, iPhone or Android phone. And it's cool when you have like the actual physical device. But what if you don't? And you still need to verify how the certain website or certain web page looks under this device. So Chrome DevTools actually has the feature that allows us to do something like this. And we can actually simulate the behavior of our web page on mobile simply by using this tool. Okay, so let's just jump into the actual tool, and I hope everything I just said will make so much sense to you. So first of all, what I have here, I just have open page of Amazon.com. I hope most of you are familiar with this site, and it's obviously opened in Google Chrome browser. So now I need to open Chrome Developer Tools. In order to do so, all you need to do is just do the right click on the page, anywhere on the page. Just do the right click with your mouse, inspect, and you will see a panel like this that will be open. A few words here. It is possible that if you do this, this panel will be in different locations. So for example, you may see something like this, or you may see it on the left side as well. That's totally fine. It's just default setting of your browser. So if you want to move the tool itself in any side, just click on these three dots and put the dock side on the side of the screen that you prefer, right? So in my case, I prefer the right side, so this is where I'm keeping my Chrome Developer Tools. All right, so let me close it and open one more time for those who didn't see it. I'm just doing the right click on the page, anywhere on the page, doesn't really matter. Go to this inspect option and click on it. And here we go. The panel opens, and this panel is Chrome Developer Tools. This panel basically has the functionality of the tool itself. Some of you may see it in black color, so black scheme. That's totally fine. It's usually a default setting for those who have like the black theme on their Mac machines. So if it's a different color, don't be surprised, it's also okay. All right, now let's imagine the classic situation. I have this Amazon.com website, and I actually want to see how it looks on, let's say, my mobile device, right? I have an iPhone here, but let's imagine I don't actually have an iPhone and I can't use my iPhone to take a look and check this out. So Chrome Developer Tools over here on this side has this toggle. It says, if I hover over it, it says toggle device toolbar. So if you just click on it, you can see that the alignment on this page changes. And now if we just refresh the page, we will see how this particular website looks under this device. And this is the device that is set here. So in this case, it's iPhone 5. But we can actually pick any mobile device. Let's say I'm curious how my Amazon.com looks under iPhone X. So I just go here, select iPhone X, and here we go. I can actually, after I refresh the page, I can actually see this particular website for iPhone X. And you can see the alignment is a little bit different. It's obviously much bigger because we want to show a good experience to our mobile users. And this is one of the key features of Chrome Developer Tools. So the ability to simulate mobile device testing. Now, this is not just it. Very often when we test on mobile devices, we have the vertical mode of our mobile device when we just keep it like this, but we sometimes want to just put it horizontally like this. We can also do it with Chrome Developer Tools using this button right here. If I click on it, it will rotate my device and it will simulate the behavior of device that is rotated into horizontal mode. And now if I click back, it will put the interface back into the vertical state. So this is just a few words about using Chrome developer tools and testing the website and the way website looks for different mobile devices. Now, probably some of you have noticed when I click on this option, it shows me a lot of devices that are available for me that I can use for testing here. I can simulate them, but most of them are iPhones. We can see a few of Android devices, obviously not many. And the common problem is, but how can I test on more Android devices? This feature is actually also supported. So if you are in this device mode and have this drop down selected, you can actually go to edit option right here. And here you will be presented with a huge list of emulated devices that you can also test on. So here are a lot of options for Galaxy, LG, Nexus, and so on and so on. So obviously a lot of options and especially a lot of Android devices. So let's add an Android device. Let's go for Nexus 7, for example. I'm just going to click here on this list. I'm just clicking in this box, so checking it in. And now after I clicked it, after I enabled it, if I go back to this device dropdown, you can see that my device just showed up. So now I can also test my website the way it looks on Nexus 7 Android device, and this is the experience we get. So it is a little bit different, right? So again, this is pretty convenient in case you want to test something on mobile device, some certain website on the mobile device, and we don't actually have a mobile device to look at. Now, a few other things that I wanted to mention here. Let's go back, for example, to iPhone 6. So let's refresh the page. And let's imagine this situation. You are testing a certain website, but you want to test the case of how your website behaves for users who are on a pretty bad internet. That's a common problem, especially common in California right now, especially where I am. And we want to make sure when we verify our product, verify our web interface, that our experience is still good for users, even for those who don't have a nice internet. And usually it's very hard to simulate something like this because if you have a good Wi-Fi, let's say at home, or a good connection on your phone, it's pretty hard to modify this connection so it starts being much worse, right? So Chrome Developer Tools actually helps us to test this kind of scenarios as well. Up here, you can see this option that says online. Online means that this tool right now is using the internet connection, the strong internet connection. It's using my Wi-Fi, but you can actually change it if you click here, and you can change the internet connection that is being used to anything else, especially to the lower quality internet. So if I click on this online and select low and mobile, this is the simulation of behavior for a pretty bad internet connection. So now if I refresh this page, I will see how my website behaves in case I have a bad internet. So we can test what experience our users will get in case they have a pretty terrible internet. So let's refresh the page and let's see what Amazon.com is doing in this case. So you can see that it is obviously taken some time for things to appear. And now if we scroll down, you can see that Amazon shows this loading circle to our users, this loading bar. So this is done intentionally. So users who are on low internet, on bad connection, they understand that it's actually still loading, and they will stay on this page and they will wait. If let's say our website didn't have anything like this, didn't show like progress of the loading, users could think that, hey, this is the whole page. They wouldn't see anything else, and they would be a little bit confused with the internet, let's be honest. So this is another pretty good feature. Again, low-end mobile will help you to test a scenario when you are on pretty terrible internet and you want to make sure your website, the website that you show to your users, is still working fine. In order to fix it and in order to put it back in case you're trying it yourself, click here again and select online. Don't forget to do it so your website starts loading fast and will be loading fast in the future, because if you forget, you may stuck with this low setting for this particular website. So select online, and now we are back to the good mode when everything is loading super quickly. Cool. So another thing, let me exit. I'm sorry, let me exit this mode a little bit. Is on this side, on this panel, you can unclick this toggle, and this will take you back to the mode when everything is fine and when you actually can see the desktop version. So one more thing I wanted to mention here, we have these 3 dots on the right panel. If we click here and go to more tools, and under more tools, if we select sensors, let me pull it up a little bit. Oops, that's the wrong one. There we go. We get to even more advanced settings of testing our mobile. So in case testing vertical and horizontal mode of your phone is not enough and you want to test it in some diagonal or some weird orientation, I'm sorry, you can actually pick the orientation of your device here. You can rotate it and you can see how your website will be behaving. So just a cool feature. I don't use it a lot, honestly, when I test myself, but it is, I think, pretty useful to know that you can actually do something like this in case you need to. All right. So now let's close this and let me show you another example. Another use case that I have over here on my list is, besides simulating the interface of mobile device and behavior of mobile device, sometimes we want to test geolocation. So sometimes we want to make sure that the location services of our website work and actually can locate the users and show them the right interface. So I'm gonna go to a Safeway locator. So Safeway is just basically Safeway.com is the website for Safeway stores. They're pretty popular here in California. This is where you can actually get just groceries. So here on the Safeway, they have this feature that allows you to locate the store that is closest to where you're at. So if I click on this arrow right now, it will understand where I am located, where my user is, and it will show me the options of the stores that are closest to me, closest to my location. So you can see that when I actually clicked here, I'm presented with a map, and on the map I see a lot of stores, and these are the stores that are really next to me because I live in this area, and those are the stores that are pretty close. So if you test a website, and if you ever test online store, or let's say a restaurant locator or something like this, this feature is very helpful for you to test the map and make sure that map is actually correct and the map behaves the way it's supposed to behave. So in Google Chrome Developer Tools, very often we need to simulate my location. So imagine the situation where, let's say, I work here in California, but I test the website for, let's say, some sort of a store that is somewhere in New York, for example. And now I want to make sure that users who are in New York, when they click on the search button, they will also see the stores that are closest to them, right? So very often I need to actually simulate my location and act like I'm somewhere else. So Chrome Developer Tools can also help you to do that. Again, right-click, inspect. Let me exit the phone mode, sorry. Right-click, inspect. And in here, I already have this menu opened, but 3 dots, more tools, sensors. This is the option that allows you to simulate a location. So you can see a location here. By default, it's usually set to no override. That's what you usually see there. But you can actually change it. Make it a little bigger for you guys. And you can change the location of where where your user at through this tool. So under location, you can pick any location you'd like to be. Let's go, for example, for San Francisco, why not? And try to, actually, let's go for a little bit different. And try to basically interact with this one. Mine looks like it's already set to something. Let me quickly check. And let me try to overdo it. Okay. So let's go for San Francisco. I hope it works. It is saying me that time zone overrides of already in effect. It is possible that my override has been previously set, but let's try and let's see if I can also override the location. Okay, 1 second. So let's just refresh our page. And let's see if this one works. Unless I have it overriding somewhere in another tab, it should try to locate me and show me San Francisco options. But that's basically, here we go. And that's basically what it is doing. So at this point, when I'm resetting my location to San Francisco, it starts showing me that I am in San Francisco and shows me the stores that are around me because my browser is now thinking that I'm actually in San Francisco, and it shows me how to actually locate the stores that are near me, and the suggested stores are San Francisco ones. I can always reset it back to normal. So if I go here, pick no override, I will be able to set my location back to default one, back to the one where I started from. So again, if I just refresh this page and search for my location after it loads, it should show me that I'm back to Concord area. Here we go. Right, so now I'm back to where I am, which is in East Bay. So again, this is another helpful feature. And obviously this is not it. This is just one of the features of Chrome Developer Tools. And overall, Chrome Developer Tools allow us to solve a lot of different problems, and we can do a lot of different things. The things that we tried to do, the things that we tested today was simulating mobile devices and actually testing the website on the mobile device. And another problem that we solved today and we try to do is to test geolocation features and make sure that our website shows correct, let's say, stores for a certain location and things like this. But obviously, Chrome Developer Tools is pretty huge. It has a lot of additional features. It allows us to view the elements of our web page, view the network activity, like see how our app communicates with its servers on the back end. It helps us to analyze performance. It has features to analyze security and so on. So on the slide, I also have the link to official documentation. If you want to play with it yourself, feel free to look it up. But the rest of these things, the rest of these features, we will also cover during our course. And I will make sure that you are familiar with the most common features because Chrome Developer Tools, it's a pretty good and pretty convenient tool to use for testing, especially for testing web. And this is the tool that goes by default with your Chrome browser, and it's one of the easiest, in my opinion, tools that people can actually use, and it really increases your efficiency as a QA engineer. Simply just the ability of things that you can do by knowing some of Chrome DevTools features is really huge. So this is basically it. This is basically all I wanted to mention today about Chrome DevTools. And let me see if we have any questions. But again, feel free to check it out. If you have Google Chrome browser, it is the tool that goes with it by default, and it is totally free. So that's all I have as far as Chrome DevTools, and I hope this was pretty helpful. Let's see if we have any questions in the chat, and I'll give the word back to Yuri. I have like one question that I see. How do we check web elements? We will cover it during the during the course. I don't want to go too technical right now into these details, and honestly, it's a bit early for the second class to actually look into this. And another question that I have: how can we access the slides? We will send all the slides to you at the end of the, as well as video recordings at the end of the class. All right, cool. So that's pretty much all I have. And I think we have the next teacher at this point. Yuri?
Thank you, Lana. It was an amazing presentation. So for just a few few key points at this point. So for some of you, you might think like it's a very complicated thing, and that all the QA engineers or all the testers will be required to use this tool as their everyday application, which may or may not be true. I'll tell you something from my experience. I've been working as a manual web QA engineer for many years, and I only had to use this tool maybe once or twice in my career. So while this is a very useful tool, and what's awesome about it that it's available for everyone who uses Chrome browser. So everyone with the Chrome browser can use this Chrome DevTools to help them if they need help with troubleshooting, if they need, let's say, simulate a screen resolution for a mobile device, for a mobile browser. They can do it without buying and purchasing or using some sophisticated or complicated tools. Everything that you need is already been embedded into standard Chrome browser. But as I say, this might not even be important when you will start job as a QA engineer. Okay, so let me take over. First of all, guys, please use the chat room if you have any questions about the material, about the course, about whatever we try to explain. Please use the chat room. Just make sure, so I will be taking over this lesson for the next 90 minutes. So please use the chat room, but make sure you are addressing a message to me, which my name is Yuri Sokolov. And there's a way to select a recipient of your message. So you might find Max there, Lana, and myself. So please address it to Yuri Sokolov. Okay? Let me continue with our class. Let me share my screen. Please, guys, confirm that you can see my screen and hear my audio so we can continue. Okay, awesome. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Let me click present. Okay, so today we'll cover few things that are important because they are the basics of QA engineering. Why we say it is important to know? Because questions related to today's topic, to today's discussion, may come up during an interview. It may come up during the phone call with the recruiter. It may come up during the phone call with HR or the manager. And while this is will be basically covering like a very, very, very intro and basic level of types of testing, like what do we do at work, how to write bug reports, so all the basic stuff. From my personal experience, after having 5 years in QA, I had a phone call where I was applied for senior QA engineer, and I was asked questions about types of testing, which seems to be a pretty basic set of questions. That's why we want you to know all of this. And when we will start preparing for the interview, this information will be very much relevant to your future job search. So please be focused on the material today. And by the end of the class, I will open the comment section so you can ask all the questions openly to everyone. And me, myself, and Max, we will try to answer as many questions as we can. Okay? So let's talk about, first of all, let's talk about types of testing. Okay? First of all, this is, again, our instructors that you will be working with during this course. If you missed lesson number 1, I'll give you a bit of an intro about myself. My name is Yuri, and I have more than 7 years of experience in QA, working at Google at this point. and I went through many projects, many different technologies. I worked as a mobile QA engineer. I worked as a web QA engineer. I changed many different positions and worked with many different technologies. So I have a pretty good knowledge and experience that I want to share with all of you. If you want to start your career in QA, if you want to start your career in IT, I think my feedback is going to be very useful for all of you. Okay, let's start with types of software testing. There are many types of software testing. I'll tell you right away. So we'll try to separate them and categorize them according to what is considered a standard across the whole IT companies. So the first set of types of testing we will cover, they are called a black box, a gray box, and white box. I'll answer the question right away. Do I, as a QA engineer that wants to start their career in IT, do I need to know the difference? Yes, you need to know the difference between all three of them, and you should be able pretty much explain what is the difference. So three types of testing we'll start with are called black box, gray box, and white box. So what is the difference? Let's start with the black box testing. So the black box testing examines an application without peering into its internal structures or workings. This course, as we call it, a manual QA course, it's basically designed for a black box engineers. Black box engineers are, let's call it, more sophisticated users that they assess the application from the user point of view. They don't go into the code. They don't really look into the databases. They don't really know what are the coding algorithms or coding structures that the application is based on. Black box QA engineers are users like me and you and other person that work for the company and know how the application supposed to function. So that's what we call a black box tester, or in this for this slide is black box testing. Now let's move to the gray box testing. First of all, there is a category that is called a white box testing. And white box testers are usually called the testers that work with actual code. So they work and they test application by interacting with a code, not the user interface. I'll give you an example. Every one of you probably use the website, right? Let's take pretty simple example like Amazon. Amazon is a website, and when you go to your browser, you open the browser, you type it in amazon.com, you go in, you see the front page. So every time you click something, every time you interact with UI elements, or maybe you want to buy something, maybe you want to proceed with the shopping, you're interacting with the website as a black box tester, because you don't go into the code. You do not look into the code, you do not interact with the code. You don't care about the code because you're a black box tester. White box testers, on opposite, will be actually testing the product, testing the website by looking and interacting with the code structures. So if you're an automation QA engineer, for example, you have to write your scripts, you have to look into the website by looking at this code, by looking at the selectors, by looking at the UI elements from the HTML or CSS point of view. You might want to check the databases and so on. So your tests are based on interactions with the code structure. Those people that test a product by looking at the code, by interacting with the code, by creating their tests based on the code are called white box testers. There is always a gray area. And the gray area in testing is called a gray box testing. So gray box testing is done when a tester partially knows the internal structure of an application and partially sometimes may look into anything outside of UI, so anything outside of just graphic elements of the website to check if the application behaves the way it's supposed to. Very simple example of gray box testing is, let's say you have to check the database to make sure that one of your tests passed for black box testing. So let's say when you create an account, very great example. Every and each one of you in your lifetime probably created an account on different sites. Could be Facebook, it could be Amazon, it could be Instagram, anywhere. As a black box tester, the way you test account creation is you go to the website, right? You type it in your email, you type it in your password, you create an account, you fill out the form, and as soon as the application will move you to the next step, confirming that, hey, user Johnson, your account was created. This is how we verify account creation from black box side. So if the same procedure would be performed by gray box tester, on top of the layer we just did with creating an account using UI elements, we can go and check the database and see if within the database our user was actually created or not. So this layer of testing is called the gray box. And white box testers, they rarely go into the user interface. They rarely go into the actual manual testing. They work with the code. Their tests are based mostly on the code structure that the application is created on. I hope that's clear. We will try to explain everything as using as simple language as we can, because we know that a lot of you probably don't have any IT experience. So the way we structure our classes, that we try to explain how software development works, how software is built, how the IT processes are built by using a very, very simple language. But again, guys, please ask questions in the chat room, and I will be happy to answer to all of them by the end of this class. Now, let's move to the next slide. We have another set of testing types, and those types are called functional or non-functional testing. Functional testing is so it's a testing of a software system or a feature or maybe a component on its specifications. So we are testing what the system does, how it is compliant with specific functional requirements. Functions are fed input and the output is examined. Internal program structure is rarely considered. I'll give you a very basic example. When you go to, let's say, YouTube page, maybe a Google page, everyone uses Google these days, right? So you go to the Google website, and let's say you have a search field. When you type in your question to the Google, it's like, Google, how do I cook a soup, or how do I boil an egg? Very simple query. And then you click a search button. So when we test what happens when you click a search button, that is called a functional testing, because the only thing we care at this point is what happens after we click on the button, or we enter some text and then we click on the button. So we test the function, and that's why it's called a functional testing. So far, so good. I hope everyone is with me. Now, what is the difference between functional and non-functional testing? Non-functional testing is testing of a software application or system for its non-functional requirements. So the way a system operates rather than its specific behavior. Another example, using the Google and the search browser, right? So we know that if we type in our question in the Google search input box, right? And we click on the search button, we know that there is a function, there's a functional side that is supposed to happen. The user should be taken to the search results page. So the functional testing answers the question what the software or what the application does. Non-functional testing answers the question how well the application does it. For example, what if we click the search button, right? So we have a search button. What if we click the search button 10 times very fast? You know, how well our application will behave if we'll send, if we'll click instead of 1 time, 10 times, maybe 100 times to the search button. So non-functional testing is actually tests not what the application does, but how well it performs under certain conditions. Okay? Let's move to the next slide. There are, as I said previously, there are many different types of testing. And ideally, of course, every QA engineer who's looking for the job, they should know at least briefly something about all of them. So functional types of testing: unit testing, integration testing, sanity testing, smoke testing, interface, regression, acceptance testing. Non-functional: load testing, localization testing, performance testing, security, stress, and usability. Don't be afraid. I know, guys, there's a lot of the words that you may haven't heard before, but we will give you information. We'll prepare you for getting familiar with all of them to the extent of you being able to pass the interview. As I mentioned previously, when I was working as a QA engineer for long period of time, I applied for one of those positions, and they knew that I had 5 or 6, 7 years, I don't remember at this point, years of experience on my resume. Yet the questions they asked me, well, can you name like can you name few functional types of testing? Or can you name a few non-functional types of testing? So even if you have 5 or 6 years of working as a QA engineer in your resume, they may still ask you very, very basic questions. In fact, by that time when I was interviewing, I did not know half of them, because in your actual job, so when you will, let's imagine you'll get a job as a QA engineer tomorrow, you will start working. Most likely in 95% of the cases, you will be working out of all these, you will be actually performing maybe 4 or 5. So while they have many of the types of testing exist in the world of IT, in reality, manual QA engineer, black box engineer usually works with only few of them. But still, since you will be looking for the job, since you will be going through the interview, they might ask you to name some of those even if you haven't performed them. So I'll tell you right away, if you're a manual QA engineer, most likely you will be working with, you will be performing sanity tests, smoke tests, interface tests, regression, and maybe acceptance. Non-functional types of testing, usually performed by the specialists. There is a specific title for people who do stress testing or load testing. They use specific tools, and those tools will simulate, let's say, a very high load on a web page. So it will simulate like that button that I told you, the search button, in order to test how well will it perform if it clicked 1,000 or 100,000 times at the same time. You will need to use a tool, because as a manual QA engineer, it's almost impossible to test this manually, because you'll have to like click the same button, 100 times within a second, and it's almost impossible. Majority of non-functional tests are performed by a very specific department or a very specific set of people that know what they're doing. Security testing mostly performed by security engineers. Load testing are mostly performed by people who know tools, how to test load, how to test a load testing for the website. It's like, how can we simulate thousands of interactions with the web page at the same time? They use tools, they know how to use them. Same goes for the stress testing. Localization testing, as you may already figure out by the name, is performed by people, by simple QA engineers that are proficient in one language or another language. When I was working for the company, I was working for the startup, and usually startups, they understaffed, which means that they don't really hire that many people to do different kinds of a job. So for localization testing, we had a spreadsheet with all the employees of the company, and everyone who knew some language, they would enter the language they knew. And in case if you would need to perform localization testing, they would ask someone to check if those translations or these localization aspects of a software were correct from their point of view. So localization testing is basically when we check if the application was, or the website was translated correctly, if there are no issues with UI elements because of the translation, and so on. What I want you to focus on are mostly the functional types of testing, the functional component. Also, I will tell you right away that unit testing is done by the developers. Unit testing is performed mostly by the developers. It's the point of the unit testing is to test how their part of the code functions, to test how their part of the code operates. As a manual QA engineers, as a black box QA engineers, you will not be doing unit testing. Integration testing means, it actually means a variety of things, but if your software or if your product uses multiple components or maybe different software that are working together, the way we test how they operate together or work together, it's called the integration testing, because we integrate multiple components of the software together, and we may verify how after the integration the software actually works. So far so good, guys? I'll tell you more about the types of testing, so we'll get there. But I just want you to know the difference, that some types of testing manual QA engineers do not really do. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't know that those types of testing exist. And what do they mean? Again, by the end of this class, you'll get this presentation. You will get extra materials that will give you more insight of what each type of testing actually does and what is supposed to happen when we perform one or another type of a testing for our application under test. All right, let's move to the next slide. Okay, so that was fun, right? That was fun. A lot of information. Bear with me. we have more types of testing that are somewhat separate from those that we discussed before. Another types of testing are called positive, negative, and boundary testing. I'll read the description and then I'll try to explain what it actually means. Okay, so positive testing. The positive testing validates data as input. I'm sorry, during the positive testing, we use valid data as input. So this type of a testing checks whether an application behaves as expected with positive type of input. Negative testing. Negative testing ensures that your application can gracefully handle invalid input or unexpected behavior, user behavior. And then there is a boundary testing. With this technique, test cases are designed to include values at the boundary. If the input data used is within the boundary value limits, then it's said to be positive testing. If the input data picked is outside of the boundary value limits, then it is a negative testing. Seems complicated. Well, let me explain. It's actually really, really simple, guys. Let's use real life an example because I always like to use real life examples. Let's go back to the Google search field, right? So you as a, let's say you're working for the Google and your job is to test a Google search input field. You know that field when you actually enter your question or the query, right? And then you click on the search button. We know that according to the requirements, that input field, let's say, accepts numerical values, so digits or numbers, right? It's a valid type of input. Another valid type of input would be letters. So it's called alphanumerical valid input data. So we know that everything that is within those boundaries, so it's either a number or a letter, if we enter that into the input field and click search, then our software is supposed to look through the Google database and provide us with a search result page. So if our input when we test an application satisfies those requirements, so if let's say we use letters and we use digits in our query, we are feeding the data to our input field, to our application. So if it's a valid data, this type of testing is called a positive testing. Another very simple test that I want you to know. Let's say we need to test a basic Google search functionality. What do? We go into the Google page and we ask any query. We feed the input field any query. So we ask, what is the, let's see, what is the weather today, right? We ask, what is the weather today? That will be considered a positive testing because we provided absolutely valid data and our application knows how to handle this specific type of input, this specific type of data. Okay, let's move to the negative testing. Let's say we have a requirement and requirement says that our search input field, for example, cannot handle, let's say maybe Chinese symbols, right? Chinese alphabet or the whatever the alphabet is called. So it's not Latin alphabet, maybe it's Russian. So let's say our documentation says that this type of input is not supported. So our software will not work the same way when we provide, let's say, Russian or Chinese or Hindu or any other form of input except for Latin. But does it supposed to break? What do we expect? Let's say we enter something that our system does not support. What do we expect to happen after we provide this invalid type of input? So that's why, because our requirements are set not to accept that invalid type of input, we still need to test it. We still need to know that even though we provided that, you know, Chinese alphabet, Russian alphabet, any other form of Cyrillic alphabet, any other form of input except for Latin, we still need to know that our application will be able to handle it well. For example, it might take user to the page and say, you know, this type of input is not supported. Or maybe they might say, please use Latin alphabet, or please use alphanumeric type of input. So it should handle this case gracefully, even though the type of input is invalid to our system. So this type of testing is called negative testing. Let's move to the boundary testing. Boundary testing, especially, so it's very, very important when we have an input field for once. It's very important when we have to provide something that is related to numbers. I'll give you an example, very, very simple example. Probably a lot of you are using Instagram, right? So some of you know what the Instagram is. Maybe some of you don't. But anyway, it's the application where you upload your images to be, you know, presented on the website or a mobile application. Let's say you work for an Instagram, right? And you look at the requirement, and the requirement says that user can submit at once or upload at once, let's say somewhere from 1 to 10 images. Okay, this is what the application will allow you to do. Submit, when you try to upload your image to Instagram, right? You select somewhere from 1 to 10 images. So the boundary testing is a type of testing when we check those actual boundaries. So the boundary testing would be to try and upload like 0 images, see how it happens, see what application does. The boundary testing would be to check, 10. So 10, it's boundary, but also is a positive because we expect it, because that is expected that our system should handle 10 images being uploaded. Okay, but because it's on the boundary of what is expected, well, what the application should allow and what application should not allow, this is called a boundary testing. Another example of the boundary testing, we can try and upload 11 images and see what happens. According to our specifications, application, Instagram, right, should not allow user to upload 11 images. So boundary testing is when we test the boundaries. Another example of the boundary, condition is age. You probably went through many websites. You went through many different applications on web or on mobile. When you have to provide your age, right? Maybe date of birth, something related to the number. And the way, let's say, the website may be built, it might say that so person who's under 21 cannot access this content, or maybe they're under 18, depending on what the restriction is. So the boundary testing would be to check if you're 18, maybe if you're 150, maybe there's going to be a boundary about how old, like what is your maximum age you can be in order to proceed or to register, right? So the boundary testing would be to check those boundaries. And this is an example. So positive checks would be 18. If we have a requirement that says, if you're 18 to 150, you should be able to register. 18, 20, and 150 would be positive checks inside the range. They might also be considered, well, 18 and 150 would be considered a boundary case because we check in like the boundaries of our expected behavior. 17 and 151 is going to be negative checks because we provide in a negative type of input, but they're at the same time are considered boundaries because they're again on the border of what is expected. Guys, it might seem complicated, but it actually is not. And I believe you, by the end of this 4-week training program, you will be writing test cases, you will be finding bugs based on all these types of testing with no problem. Okay? Let's move next. All right, so let me briefly go over explanation of some types of testing, the ones we saw in our diagram, right? Unit testing is a level of software testing where individual units, components of a software are tested. As I said, usually done by developers. The next level is called integration testing. So integration is it's a level of a software testing where individual units are combined and tested as a group, usually also made by developers, sometimes by QA engineers who specify in certain technical areas. So if you're a QA engineer, you know how both of the parts of the application or the both parts of the system you try to merge or you try to combine work, and you know exactly what to test to make sure they're working together the way they're supposed to. Manual QA engineers also may perform integration testing. Okay? System testing. So system testing is the process that evaluates how the various components of an application interact together in full. System testing verifies that an application performs tasks as designed. System testing is a very broad type of testing. It's a very broad description. It can mean a lot of things. It can combine a lot of things together, a lot of different testing types together. You should not be focused on this. First of all, don't be really focused on those three. Ideally, you should know the definition and have an idea of what each and every one of those types supposed to do. But in reality, from the practical point of view, from the practical perspective, probably you will not be touching those three types of testing at all in your manual QA career. Okay, let's move to acceptance testing. Acceptance testing is a level of software testing where a system is tested for acceptability. The purpose of this test is to evaluate the system's compliance with the business requirements and assess whether it is acceptable for delivery. I'll try to explain it in, let's say, simpler words. Let's say you work for the company. Let's take a very basic version of an Instagram. So you know that you have an application that is supposed to upload images to your profile, right? You know that you work for then you test application that is supposed to let other users to like your photos, right? Like your images, maybe comment them. So there is a level of testing that's supposed to be performed every time you make any change to make sure that those core components, those core functionalities are working as expected. Acceptance testing, or sometimes it also called release acceptance testing, is probably one of the most important and arguably the most popular or most performed types of testing there is, because it checks that whatever the changes to the software were made, the core functionality of the application, the core performance and everything else satisfies the acceptance criteria. We'll talk about it a bit more later, but as a basic concept of acceptance testing, it means that we check that on the very basic level, our core components or the core features of an application are working as expected. Okay? Let's move to the next slide. Let's talk about more types of testing. Maybe you've heard of them. Maybe you've heard of them. Probably every company or every, let's say 99% of the companies, they perform this type of a testing, and they are called alpha and beta. Both are the subtypes of acceptance testing. Alpha testing is performed to identify all possible issues, bugs, before the product is released to end user, public. It is usually done by designated team of testers or maybe internal employees, and is done early on, near the end of the development phase and before beta testing. Beta testing is done by releasing a beta software of this, beta version of the software to a limited number of end users to obtain feedback on the product quality. Beta testing reduces product failure risks and provides increased product quality through customer validation. Okay, few examples from real life, from real how the companies actually deliver software to the users. Let's say we all work for, let's pick another company that everyone knows, eBay. Probably everyone knows eBay. Probably everyone uses eBay. Let's say the company decides to add a feature to the eBay functionality. Let's say they have decided to add a way for users to review other people's products or review other users. I know they have it right now, but before they didn't, because every software was built in stages. During each stage, they will add more and more different features and functionality, buttons and elements and so on. So let's imagine the company decided to add specific feature, for users to be able to rate sellers or rate buyers, right? So the developers created a code, and they have a team of QA engineers. So that team of QA engineers did their round of testing, and they say, well, how about before releasing the software, we will maybe use some third-party testing agency, or maybe we will send all our employees, like internal employees, the new version of our eBay product with this feature being enabled. So everyone who's somehow affiliated with the company and has access to this new feature is considered an alpha testers. They're alpha means they're first to work, to play with, to see how the feature works. Usually are mostly internal employees. And the feedback they will provide is essential because obviously it's going to be a lot of people. Maybe if your company is like 1,000 people and you give all the 1,000 people access to your new feature, some of them will have some feedback, they'll provide it, and it's going to be, very valuable type of testing outside of even your QA engineering team, because QA team may be like 15, 20 people, but the company itself may be 1,000. So obviously it makes sense to release your product early on to your internal employees, to the whole 1,000, and ask them to provide a feedback. So basically that's what's called an alpha testing. Now let's move to the beta testing, because there is a difference. Maybe some of you, well, I think most of you already have smartphones, right? So maybe some of you will have Android smartphone, right? You may notice when you go to the Play Store or Apple Store, you may notice that sometimes they might ask you if you want to become a beta tester. You know, let's say you use an application, maybe you play a mobile video game. Sometimes you will see like a pop-up or some form of communication. They'll ask you, well, do you want to become a beta tester? And maybe you're a fan of this application. Maybe a fan of this mobile video game. So you're eager to try the updated version first and provide your input to the company. Users who volunteer to be that first phase of new software release are called the beta testers. So they are not affiliated with the company. They do not work for the software developers. They do not, they're not internal employees. They are users, simple users. But they're being given a chance, the opportunity to test the brand new update, the brand new version of the software first. And then the company will gather feedback from those users. So those users are called beta testers. You see the difference, right? And alpha testers are those who are affiliated with the company in some way. They might be hired by the company. There might be, a team of outsourced QA engineers that are hired specifically to test their software at the very early stage. They might be internal employees of the company. They want to, play with the software and give their feedback. So those are called an alpha testers. Beta testers are an actual users who are not affiliated with the company, and it's basically their just their desire to get the updated version of the software first. Okay. Okay, end-to-end testing. End-to-end testing checks whether an application flow from start to finish is behaving as expected. Sometimes we call it a full user journey. End-to-end testing is performed to identify system dependencies and to ensure that the data integrity is maintained between various system components and systems. If you want to, let's say, test a purchasing flow on Amazon, so when you go in as a user, let's say you look for a dress or maybe, headphones or shoes, then you find the product, then you add it to the cart, then you check out, and then you complete the purchase. That's what's called end-to-end testing, because we covered the full flow of the main functionality. So that's like a very basic example of what's end-to-end means. Okay, let's see what else we have. More types of testing. Smoke testing, sanity testing, regression testing. Smoke testing is performed after receiving a software build to ascertain that the critical functionalities of the program are working fine. It is executed before any detailed functional or regression tests are executed on software build. So basically, this to explain smoke testing, it's very simple. As I mentioned previously, every software has a very basic set, a set of core functionalities or the set of main functionalities. Smoke testing means that we want to make sure that this core set of functionalities works as expected. So we don't really even go into the deeper, very deeper and more sophisticated type of testing and trying to find bugs and execute thousands of test cases. No, the purpose of smoke testing is to verify that the basic functionality works as expected. Sanity test is performed after receiving a software build with changes in code or functionality. to ascertain that the bugs have been fixed and that no further issues have been introduced due to these changes. Another good example, let's say you work for the company and it's Google search, right? And you notice that there was an issue, the bug. Let's say you type something into the search field, you click on the button and nothing happens. It's an issue, it's a bug. And then developers, let's say, fix it. So they find the issue, they find the error, and they will fix it. So the sanity type of testing in this case would be to check everything around that search functionality to make sure that the issue was fixed. So that is what sanity testing is. And regression testing is performed to confirm that the recent program or code change has not affected existing features. An example, the new code changes have not caused any side effects for the existing functionalities. It ensures that the old code still works once the new code changes are done. As you may see, regression testing looks kind of similar to the smoke testing, which it is true, but the difference is that the smoke testing and regression testing are performed during the different stages of software development. We will cover it after. So we will cover all these types with actual examples and respectively to the software development life cycles. But basically, regression testing is a final stage of a software development when after every new change that was done, after every new feature that was developed, and what we do, we do like a final round of testing before the software gets released to the public to make sure that nothing is broken. Okay? Okay, so performance, stress, load. Again, guys, these types of testing are mostly done by either specific engineers that know how to test this, some QA engineers that know the set of tools, set of software that they can use to measure the performance, to measure the load, and perform the stress testing. They may also do these types of testing, but in reality, I don't want you to focus on this for now. So again, you will have this in your presentation. Feel free to read it, and of course, you need to know the difference. But you will not be doing this as your at your job, most likely with a 99% guarantee. This is another slide. As you can see, there are all there's a bunch of different types of testing together, combined together. There's going to be a link to a page that you can look through and read more about it. All right, so let's move to the next. First of all, let me briefly go over the questions about testing types. Let's see. I don't have a lot of questions. Does it mean that everything that I say makes sense? Yes, I'm happy to hear that. Okay, so I'll read few of the questions. The question from Farhad. My understanding that the positive and negative testing should be inside boundary testing. Is that right? Boundary testing only means that we check the values that are very close to what is on the boundaries of our expected or not. So they can be both. Let's say, again, if the input field only accepts digits from 1 to 10, if we provide input as 1, it's positive test. But it also a boundary test because it's on the very, very limit of our what is expected. 0, for example, would be invalid type of input, but it also going to be a boundary type of testing, right? Same goes for, let's say, 10. 10 is a positive input because we expect that the user will provide 10 as a input, right? But 11 is a negative, but both of them are boundary because they're on the boundary of what is expected or not. Let's say 20 we cannot allow, so it's negative. It's an invalid type of input, but it's not boundary because it's way off of our scale, right? I hope that explains it. So the question, another question I had about regression and sanity. As I mentioned before, sanity test is usually much simpler, and it does not include a full set of cases, a full set of test cases to check, because regression is basically done at the end of the software release cycle. And I'm actually getting a bit of ahead because we'll have class, I think next class or the class after it will cover that software development life cycle. But regression testing is performed at the end, after everything is done. Sanity testing may be performed in between to make sure that nothing was broken, to make sure that core functionality will work. It might be very basic to check that, okay, this button works, this menu works, this input field works, and that's it. We don't execute thousands of test cases for sanity tests because sanity tests are usually very simple and very basic to check how the application works, how the basic features working for that app, right? Another question is, what are the usability testing and GUI testing? Usability testing is a very specific types of testing, and usually it's either performed, it's actually not that widespread anymore, usability, because it's supposed to check how well users operate with buttons and fields, and if they are happy with from the standpoint of usability, how it works and looks. But for now, actually a lot of the design teams are doing usability testing. It's their part of the job to make sure that the design and UI they create is going to be almost perfect from their user experience and user usability point of view. So QA engineers may see, because QA engineers may perform testing under much bigger variety of, let's say, devices or browsers. So they might they might provide a comments that say, oh, you know what, on this device, this button doesn't, it's not big enough, so it's hard to press on it or tap on it. So that's one example of usability testing, even though it usually is combined with a bunch of other regular types of testing. So it's not really that separate from anything else. That's just a type that exists. Before, I think they were invest more into that because they didn't have like such a comprehensive design teams. So right now, design teams usually are handling that. Same goes for, well, GUI testing basically means that we test how graphic user interface works. So GUI stands for graphic user interface, and that may mean a lot of things. We might check how the buttons work, because buttons are part of the UI, so GUI. Okay, another question is, what is the most widely used testing? Acceptance, smoke test, regression testing, sanity tests. Those are more probably the. All right, guys, so let's move to the next. See, they answered most of the questions. I see some duplicated question, and I hope I answered most of them. Let's move. We'll cover one more subject today, and then we'll have another 10-15 minutes for maybe organizational questions, or if there are no organizational questions, we'll just talk about talk about types of software testing and so on. Okay, so we have bugs. Bugs is an issue. So I'll give you a very brief overview of what the bugs are and what is the classification. So if there is an issue, if there is an error in your software, right, we need to somehow classify it, because from the way we can classify it, we can understand how quickly do we need it fixed, what is the effect on our users, how bad is the bug, right? So IT community and software development processes, they came up with a certain type of classification for bugs. Blocker means that everything is broken, users cannot proceed, or maybe you as an engineer, QA engineer, cannot test the part of the software. So if you find a bug that is called a blocker, it means that it's pretty bad. It means that it needs to be addressed right away. Critical, it's also pretty bad. Critical means that the major functionality is affected. It's pretty bad, needs to be fixed ASAP, but it might not block users from moving to another flow, or QA engineers from testing somewhere else. Major, it's also pretty bad. But what major means is, okay, it's pretty bad. We know it's there. We know it exists, but we can fix it within, some foreseeable future. For some companies, it may be a week, maybe 2 weeks, maybe a few days, but it's not critical enough to fix it today. Trivial usually means that, okay, we know there's a bug. It doesn't really affect anything. Maybe it's, the color of a button is wrong. It's a bug. It's a bug. Does it affect our users? Meaning that they cannot, go and shop or go and proceed with the flow? No, it doesn't. Does it affect our engineers for not being able to test the software? No, it doesn't. So that's why it's called trivial. In minor, are usually not getting fixed at all. So minor bugs are not getting fixed at all. That might mean something like, instead of 14 size of the font, they used 14.5 or 15 point. So yes, it's kind of like not what we expect, but in reality, it doesn't affect anything. So those might be called minor, and sometimes they are being fixed only within months or 2 months of actual progress, right? Bugs, priorities, and severity. That's another thing that you will be seeing when you will be creating a bug reports, and we will talk about bug reports in the next class. So this is like an overview. Don't worry about it too much. If it looks like it's too much of information, again, don't worry about it. We'll cover this more extensively tomorrow or the day after tomorrow. But the bugs, bug tickets, that's what we call it, defects, they have severity and priority, which pretty much they correlate. They correlate among themselves, but the main difference is severity defines the extent to which the defect can affect the software, meaning how bad is the defect to our functionality. And priority means that how fast we can fix it. So the priority defines the order in which we should resolve a defect. Like, should we fix it now, or should we fix it in 2 months? Usually they are somewhat, they go somewhat together, because obviously if the bug is severe, if let's say in the Google search, our button search doesn't work, that's a severe defect. It's a critical bug because our main functionality doesn't work. On a scale of priority, it would mean that since it's our major functionality and it doesn't work, we need to fix it ASAP, so right away. So usually they are very, very similar, severity and priority. Now, bug reports are fun. Guys, bug reports are indeed fun, because bug reports are the result of testing and the result of software or a component or a system not behaving the way it's supposed to. So every time we test something, every time we have, expected behavior and an actual behavior. So what do we expect when we click that button? What do we expect when we type something in a field? That is our expected behavior. And usually defined by the documentation or sometimes common sense, sometimes any other form of verification, right? The actual result is what we see when we perform testing, when we test the software. So when we click that button, when we provide an input to the input field, and we see what actually happens. If there is a mismatch between expected and actual result, we create a bug report. We are, as a QA engineers, we are reporting to our company, to our engineers, that something went wrong, something is off, something is not right. That is what we call a bug report. Again, we will cover bug reports more deeply in next sessions. But to give you an idea of what bug reports look like, usually bug report has a title. We create a title. We as the QA engineers, we create a title for a bug report. Bug report has an ID which usually generated by the system. We will be covering Jira during this course, and Jira is, let's say, it's a bug tracking system. So Jira, when you create a bug report, it has a way of automatically creating an ID or a number, basically. So that one is generated automatically. Severity, priority, we assign that as a QA engineers the best way we feel, but sometimes it may be adjusted by developers, it may be adjusted by product managers or project managers or someone else, but maybe your QA lead or manager. But we have a power of assigning those as well. Assign to is when we create a bug report, we assign it to the engineers. Reported by, there would be your name, status, we will cover it later. Environment details, steps to reproduce, when we basically explain how do we get to that point of seeing the error, seeing the flaw. And then we provide what we expect to see and what is the actual result. Let's see how it actually looks. Let's check how it actually looks when we fill in the data. Okay, this is an example of a bug report. Let's say, maybe if you watched the first lesson, you remember where Max was trying to access a web page. And instead of a web page, when he clicked on the link, it would take him to the page, and it would say, there's a 404 error, which means page not found. I'm pretty sure every one of you, at least once in your life, clicked on the link, and it would take you to the page which would say 404 error, page not found. Very common bug. It's an issue. This should not happen, so we should report it. Let's say you're working for the company that has a web page, and if you, let's say, click on the link, it will take you to the 404 error page. What are you supposed to do? If it's not expected, of course, you're supposed to file a bug report. Then you provide a title to the bug report. You say, an attempt to access website results in a 404 error. That's our bug title. The bug ID, again, will be provided automatically. Severity and priority. This obviously may change depending on what kind of page you want to access. If it's one of the major pages, that, let's say you try to purchase an item on Amazon, and you find an item, you're ready to pay, you're ready to give your dollars to Amazon, and you click on checkout button, and instead of taking you to the checkout page, it will take you to the 404 error. How severe is that? How bad is that? Obviously, of course, it's super bad, because literally the company loses a lot of money because people are unable to buy a product. So in this case, the severity is going to be high. Priority is going to be, so another way to assess priority, and it's also a common way of doing so, is they have a system of numbers. So P0, it's the blocker. P1 is, the next one, the highest one. P2 is major, and so on. So P0, it's called the blocker. So it's the worst case scenario. Then the ticket will be assigned to the developer, because developers will have to look at it and fix it. It would be reported by you, right? Or maybe other QA engineer. Status would be new. Environment details is basically you need to provide a detail of a system you tested this, you were able to reproduce this bug on. So let's say you're testing on Windows machine, and let's say you're using a Chrome browser. That's the place where you enter all that information. Steps to reproduce is when you will, steps to reproduce is you basically need to explain how do you get to that stage. How does one can see the same result you did during your round of testing or during your examination of this issue. In order for us, let's say, to get to that 404 error page, we maybe need to go to the home page, and we, let's say, need to click on the red button, because that red button, let's say, will take us to that 404 error page. Expected result. Expected result, page should load and work as expected. We as a QA engineers should know what is the expected result is, because we're supposed to test based on requirements. We know that if we click on that button, it obviously should not take us to the 404 error page. It should take us to maybe checkout page, maybe search results page, whatever it is, but it's not supposed to be 404. So in our case, the expected result, we can say page should load and work as expected. Or we can provide more details about what page should work, what page exactly should be open to the user, right? An actual result is 404 HTTP error observed. That's what we see. Every time we see a mismatch between expected result and actual result, we file a bug report. That's probably the main number one goal for all the QA engineers, is to check what do we expect to see when we test one part of the software, maybe a certain software, maybe one feature, to what we actually see as a QA engineers. Because if there's a mismatch, it means something is not working right. If it's not, if there's something that's not working right, we need to report it to the developers because they need to fix it. And if we do that, we save company millions of dollars of worth of profit. And that's why QA engineers are generally paid very, very well for doing somewhat very basic work. It's not because we're the only ones who can do it. No, but because when we test and find issues, we potentially can save the company millions of dollars of lost revenue, because we can catch that 404 error, because we're the only ones who know how the application should work. That's why this whole profession is very, very important, not just for users, but for the companies. That's why it's so valuable. Because even developers, they don't know how to test well. Developers know how to develop an application. They know how to write the code. They know how to write their part of the code, because obviously there's not one developer that develops an application. There are hundreds of them. So each developer knows how to develop their own set of codes or functionalities. But QA engineer gets everything together, and we know how to test how all of the flows, all of the functionalities work. And that's why if something is wrong, we are the first ones to catch it. And that's why they like to pay us well. Okay? Right, so bug reports, we'll use Jira. And in Jira, again, we will cover that later. But just for you to know, this is how it looks like. It's basically, Jira is basically a website, and the website that is used and shared among everyone in the company, where they can see and track tasks, tickets, processes, feature requests, and so on. But we'll cover that later.
I would just like to add that each and every one of you going to have its own Jira basically account, and you will be able to practice Jira during the course, and even after, once you're going to join the internship, they're going to have separate Jira there as well.
Thank you, Max. Yes, Max is absolutely right. In fact, we will strongly encourage you to get familiar with the tool, because majority of the companies right now, I would say small to medium-sized companies, they use Jira. It's probably #1 tool for task management and bug reporting in the world right now. Okay, so it's very important for you when you'll go to your job interview to be familiar with this tool. All right, so I think we will cover browsers and their issues during the web, during the different class. We have a specific class about web testing, so we'll cover that then. So guys, please, we have we have like 10-15 minutes left. I want you to ask any questions about anything that bothers you, anything that you want to get more information, and I will be happy to answer. Maybe Max will be happy to answer if it's something within his range of knowledge. So please use your chat room and ask any questions you have. Let me actually open the questions so everyone can see the chat room, okay? So for those who paid, you will get your password in your inbox, I think today or tomorrow, right, Max?
Yes, it's correct. And if you already paid and signed, you already probably got it. Just in case that you do not see that, please double check your spam or promotions folders. And if you still don't see it there, please email support@jobeasy.co, and I'm gonna send you the email again in the chat in case that you want to see how to spell it.
Okay, so I have some questions. Right, so one of the main question is, when do we get access to Jira? Guys, you will get access to Jira when you will actually need it, and you will need it probably in about a week. You will have certain assignments or certain practices to do, and practice with Jira and practice with not just browsing the tool, because browsing is not really important, but we want you to know how to use it as a QA engineers. So you will be given a certain set of instructions on how to use it, and that would be after we will be done with our, let's say, theoretical part of the course, and we will move into more of a practical application of our skills and what do you need to know, what do you need to do in order to operate with that test tool.
I know that Yuri told me that many of the bug reports that our graduates are writing looking better than his colleagues at Google. So don't worry, you will know exactly how to write the bug reports and you will do them perfectly. Now I have a question. Where can I get this recording if I miss today's class? So guys, each and every lesson, at the end of the lesson, we're gonna send recording and the presentation, which we call materials. We're gonna send it to your email in case that you join the program. The first lesson was free for everyone. and everyone got it in their email. If you don't see that, it's in spam or promotions. Now, starting from lesson 2, like today, you will get it only if you already signed and paid. In case that you want to watch today's recording and you were not able to attend the lesson for some reason, and you didn't sign and paid before, just email support@jobeasy.co and ask for the recording of the second lesson. You can mention that Max basically told you to ask for it, and you will get it. Thank you.
Okay, so let me go through some other questions. Regarding Jira, Jira is basically a website that is shared across team members. So everyone who has a password and account can access that workspace. So you don't have to install anything. You don't have to download it, and you just need to have an access to the internet and the browser, and that's how you access Jira.
Quick answer. Can I just pay through a call? No, because we don't want you to, tell your credit card number or something like that. We are using a secured system that protects our clients. So in case that you want to pay for the course, I will send you right now the link for the registration plus the contract, and you just choose the option that works best for you, and you don't need to call anyone in order to pay. If you want to ask a question, just email support@jobeasy.co, and I'm sharing the link with you right now. By the way, the same link exists on the video number 1 of the lesson number 1 if you go to the description of the video on YouTube.
Thank you, Max. So I have another question about internship. So the question is, do you have internships longer than 2 weeks to get more practice, Max?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Do you have internships longer than 2 weeks?
Of course.
To get more practice?
Of course. If you're gonna need more, you're gonna get more practice. We have web internship, we have mobile internship, both iOS and Android. We are about to start few new internships. So as much as you need to practice, we're gonna be there to support you and to help you. I think that 2-3 weeks is gonna be more than enough, but if you will need more, we definitely gonna help you. Now, I just got a question about the $50 discount for those that basically submitted the survey that I shared with you again today, guys. I'm gonna share the link again for those that didn't did the survey yesterday for some reason, or they were not able to do so. I want you to have this chance to do it today. If you already did it once, you cannot do it twice. But if you want to leave us your feedback, please go by the link that I'm going to share with you right now. And if you paid already before and you want to get your 50% basically, I'm sorry, $50 refund, you definitely should email support@jobeasy.co, and we would love to do this special refund for you. Now, I'm gonna share the link one more time. Please open it, and you can submit the survey after the end of the lesson.
I have some people saying that they don't know what is the pricing because they just joined and they haven't got that information. Max,
Got it. Yes, of course. So first of all, for those that just joined us, I just messaged in the chat the video recording of lesson number 1. So please open this link and watch it, or after or tomorrow, because I think it's very late right now. Now, let me basically share my screen with you. Let's see what I got. First of all, let me make sure that, yep. All right. So let me share my screen with you. Boom. Now, guys, this is our basically course information. So we have lessons from Sunday to Thursday from 5:30 p.m. To 7:30 p.m. Pacific time and 8:30 to 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. And you basically pay us only after you get a job. Most of the money we make only after you are guys getting the job, in case that you choose the ISA income share agreement option. So the first lesson is completely free. Starting the second lesson, you need to register and pay, but just today we decided to open it for everyone because many people already signed but didn't pay. Many people paid and still didn't sign. Many people paid and signed. Thank you very much for that. And we just didn't want to have you missing the second lesson, so we opened it for everyone. But starting tomorrow, it's going to be only by personal password that only those that paid and signed will get. So please email support@jobeasy.co or pay by the link that I shared with you. And you can also find this link in our lesson number 1 description. Now, basically, after the first lesson, and for you it's going to be the second lesson, there is a registration fee, which is $799, after which you don't pay us anything until you get the job in IT. Once you get the job in IT, you pay us 15% of your salary before taxes up to 18 months. Only the time that you work. For example, you get a job after this program, let's say after 2-3 months, you get a job, 80K. You're gonna pay 15% every month at the end of the month of your salary before taxes up to 18 months of your work. If you're gonna be working just for 6 months, you're gonna be paying just for 6 months, and then you will continue once you get your next job in IT, of course. Now, if you don't get a job in IT, you won't owe us anything. There is another option. If you don't want to pay the income share agreement and you want to pay just a certain amount, you can just pay us $2,999. It's probably going to be the best option for you, after which you don't pay anything. And of course, we're going to treat all of our graduates the same. We're going to help you maximum we can. We're going to support you, and we're going to be there with you till the victory. Now we have a new option for those that actually want to grow into the IT and they want more than just getting 70 to 100K. Those of you that want to make, let's say, 110 to 200K. For those, we have a tech career bundle, which basically gives you the manual QA course, the automation course, and the DevOps course. This bundle costs $14.99 application fee, after which you don't pay anything until you get the job in IT. Once you get a job, you pay 12% for 18 months, or you can choose the upfront of $5,999. When I say the upfront, it means you don't need the rest. For example, if you pay the $2,999 for the manual course, you don't need to pay the registration fee and you don't need to pay the ISA once you get the job. So you choose the version that works best for you. Any more questions?
Okay, guys, let's see if I have, so I have a lot of organizational questions. Let me briefly go over them. I don't see that many questions about the class, so I guess it was pretty straightforward, guys. What do you think? Like, if you have any questions about the material, please let me know. We will send you, again, we'll send you the recording, and we will send you the, Max, can you turn off your, yes, thank you. We will send you a recording and we will send you the copy of the presentation. Let's see, let me go through some other questions. If you have experience in IT, that's awesome, but you don't have experience in the United States, it means it's probably going to be even, it will probably take you much less time to find a job in IT, which is amazing. So you will have a better chance of finding a job as soon as possible. The question is, how much are the salaries for the DevOps? It ranges. I would say the DevOps probably starts somewhere in 110, 115, depending on the area where you live, $1,000 a year, and it could go up to 170, 180. Again, depends on your experience and depends on your location. If you have experience working as a QA engineer, manual in your home country, again, this is awesome. We try to help you find a job in US market. So on top of getting some awesome advice from our mentors and our teachers, you will be getting full guidance about your resumes, your LinkedIn profiles, and your job interview preparations. Okay, guys, so I think I'm actually pretty much out of questions that are relevant to our topic of the discussion today.
Quick
Max,
answer.
do you?
Yes, so we have a question, how, let's see, if I already paid for manual, how can we switch to the bundle course? So very easy, just email support@jobeasy.co and they will help you to just switch to the bundle. All right, cool. Let's see. After I complete the manual QA course, will I have to pay for automation since it's separate? Yes, if you don't choose the bundle, you will need to pay for automation course if you choose to take it. Usually what I recommend is to graduate the program of manual testing, focusing on getting the job in 2, 3, 4 months, getting yourself your 75 to 100K. And once you got the job, that's the best time to start moving forward and trying automation. I can tell you that automation is not for everyone. I can tell you that automation is going to be much more sophisticated and it will need much more time and effort. You will need to learn it at least 4 months, I believe even 5. And I'm sure that many won't be able to do it. No, not because they can't, but just because they are not motivated enough to sit and learn not easy material and complicated stuff. Now, I'm sure that many of you are able to do that, but because we don't want to waste your time, effort, and money, we want you to focus first on getting your job in manual testing. But of course, if you have some background or you're techie or you have some kind of prior knowledge, I think that automation is going to be perfect for you. And not only, I have friends that didn't have any technical background and they went to automation and are very successful in that. All right, let's see. So if we get a job after this class as manual QA and then join the bundle class at the same time for future promotion, what will be your policy for the payment method? I'm not sure what you just asked, but I can tell you if you finish the manual QA and you want to move into automation after, you could do that. And definitely once you get a job and you make a lot of money and you have a lot of free time, I'm sure that the automation course won't be a problem for you. Now, the official price of the automation separate course, right now, it might change, but right now the upfront for automation course is $4,999 in case that you would like to take it separately after you get a job. All right, cool. How long is the bundle course? So basically the manual testing takes 1 month, the automation takes 3-4 months. About the DevOps, it's gonna be a few months at least. For more details, please email support@jobeasy.co. They will give you all the details. Let's see. The IT support course is after the QA program, or you're going to mix them with the training. So the tech support going to be at the end of the course. It's going to be extra gift from us to you. Do you have Just Automation course? Yes, we do have Just Automation course. I will send you more details about the automation course, but you cannot join it if you don't have any experience in QA and you don't know manual, because most likely you will be wasting your time. I just sent you more information about the automation course. Awesome. So guys, I highly recommend you to focus on manual. And do we have any more questions? I know it's very late on the East Coast. If you're going to have any more questions, please email support@jobeasy.co, and please find time to leave your feedback, because we always do our best to improve and become better and better. Now, let's see. What is the salary range for bonus? I'm not sure what you mean, but like in one company I was working for, the bonus was every year about 10%, around 10%. So for example, I was making 90K and another 9K as a bonus. We have people that got, let's say, 110K jobs and in the Bay Area, and they got extra 40K of compensation, like stocks, dental, mental, medical, and the rest of the awesome gigs that people get in the IT world. We have actually more than I think 5 or 6 people that got 120, 140, 150, and even more. I just don't want to scare you. But around the country, we have graduates making 70, 80, 90, and 100K. So I recommend you to focus on that. We don't want to, think about luck. We want to work on something that is, direct steps that you need just to follow in order to get the results. Awesome. Great. Can I pay the $2,999 after finding a job? No, because that's if it was an option, everybody would take that option. That's why we allow you to choose the upfront or the income share agreement. But because we are super nice, if you choose to switch from income share agreement to the upfront payment during the first 2 weeks of the course, you are welcome to do that. I think that if you're going to be doing it during the first 3 weeks of the course, you also can do that option. Anyway, guys, the upfront payment is definitely going to be the best choice, but you choose what works best for you. Upfront means you need to pay before lesson number 2, but in your case, lesson number 3. Awesome. Great. If you have a personal question, just email support@jobeasy.co, and we can talk about your personal situations. Now, let's see. Can I get a job right now to start working? I'm looking for a job. No, because nobody wants to hire you until you know how to pass the interview, and for that you need our course, 1-month program plus internship and our guidelines and mentorship in order to get the job. All right, guys, thank you very much for joining us. See you tomorrow, same link, same time, but this time with the password, so make sure that you signed and paid. Thank you very much. Have a good one.